Hey everybody, I'm Brian. This is Kelly. We're with the Brian Riley team at Remax. Today we want to share with you a case study in this very brief video, hopefully, of how this seller client of ours made an extra $26,000 from the sale of his home, which just closed recently in Hampton.
Hi guys, I'm Kelly. So our team came up with like a lucky 7 listing system, and we used it for this transaction. We were able to help the seller made an extra $26,000. So today we're not going to dive into like the entire system. We're only going to show you like the 5 important ones that really mattered in this transaction.
Yeah, a lot of agents have a lot of things that they do or say that they do. We won't get too deep into that, but on our team, we have this system of 7 things that we think we do really well, which allow us to, let our clients like this one make an extra $26,000 on their house. So again, we're just going to kind of skip through these. We want to give you all the important details. The first step of our process is our consultation. All right, we're the experts. You don't call us to sell your home for you. You call us to help you sell your home and get you the best possible results. So we look at what we do as consulting. And that starts with our initial consultation. We're the experts on the market. We're going to sit down and go over with you usually 4 things. First of all, where are you looking to go? What's your motivation to even sell? And in this case, this seller had already moved. We did our consultation over Zoom, right, Kelly?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, our first consultation was over Zoom. He had already moved out of state. The house was here. He still owned it. He wasn't living in it anymore. He still had some furniture in it. And we started there and we went over the process with him. Now, we had told him during that consultation, obviously we talked about his motivations and everything. We talked a little bit about our marketing and our process and what we could do. We're going to go through each of those steps with you here today. And we talked about the price that realistically we thought his house could sell for. Now, the market range for his house, again, this is, I think, maybe even before we actually went into the house in person. You had been in it before, because you knew him, but I had never been in the house. Based on the market in the neighborhood, we established that the house would sell anywhere between $785,000 up to I think it was $819,000 was our initial view. He had mentioned some houses that sold for closer to $830,000, maybe upwards of that price. There hadn't been a lot of sales in the neighborhood because it's you can see the picture here. That's an actual picture of the house. It's a fairly new house. It was what, 3 or 4 years old, Kelly?
Yeah, 3 years old.
3 years old. Okay. So we went into the house to kind of do this walkthrough, as well as just talking with him about, hey, what were some upgrades that you would make if you would have stayed there? What are some of the pros and the cons as you see the house? And between that and our walkthrough, we came up with a couple of, we'll call them problems. They weren't really problems, but areas that stood to be improved if we wanted to get him the top dollar possible. The biggest issue, the primary issue that I saw, I think, was when the house was built, they did not build a deck or a patio or anything off the back. You had a back door that walked out from the kitchen, beautiful kitchen. Everything in the house was great. You guys will see some pictures here. But there was a door, and there was like I don't even know what to call it, like some sort of a gate, it looked like a baby gate, but the builder had basically blocked it off with like a wooden railing directly on the outside, so you couldn't even open the door, so that nobody would step out and obviously fall. It was only 4 feet, 3 feet off the ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To the backyard. And the backyard was kind of small. It was actually bigger when we walked out around the house. It was bigger when you're standing in the yard than what it felt like when you're looking out the window from the kitchen. And that was the problem that we wanted to solve. For one, it looked like an unfinished project. And 2, we wanted people to actually go out and see the yard and experience the yard, and not roll out that house entirely because they walked through the kitchen, they couldn't get out the back, they looked out the window and said, it looks small. And then at that point, they're already like 1 foot out the door. Maybe they finished the rest of the showing, they walk through the rest of the house, they like it, but in the back of their mind, that yard is going to be a problem. They probably wouldn't even at that point take the time to walk all the way around the outside of the house to go in the yard and say, oh, this isn't so bad. It just made it feel disconnected from the house. Along with that, there was some finishes, the carpet in particular in the living room and in the dining room, it was builder's grade carpet. It was cheap carpet for an $800,000 house. The builders don't use really good carpet if you don't, elect to pay the premium price to get the higher grade carpet. So we recognize that, not a problem. I mean, again, I'm saying it was cheap. It was nice carpet. Everything's brand new. It was in good shape. But if you're going to get the absolute top dollar for that neighborhood or for that market, it wasn't going to be with builder's grade carpet necessarily. Also, there was the lighting in the first floor office, as well as I think 3 of the upstairs bedrooms. There was no overhead lighting, so you had to have like lamps. It was wired for it, but again, the builder offered those options. Hey, you can pay us, whatever they charge for a ceiling fan, way more than what it costs to actually put one in yourself. So a lot of the times we see that where the seller says, oh, I'm not going to pay the builder, forget that, I'll put them in myself. And then they really just never get around to it. Next thing you know, job relocation or whatever unexpected event takes them out of state, and they're selling a 3-year-old house that they never got around to building a deck or installing the light fixtures. On top of that, there was still some furniture and stuff left in the house. They had already moved out, but there was a need there for some staging. So I think that was pretty much what we covered in our consultation, which was back in what, April, right, Kelly?
Yeah, that was in April.
All right, so walk us through the next step after we did the initial consultation. Where do we go from there?
So after we did a consultation, we suggested to the sellers about maybe adding a couple of steps to the backyard and adding the patio. And actually, I wanted to mention, after we added the patio at the open house, like almost every family, they went out from that, like the exit or entrance to the backyard. Yeah, and they got on the patio, and then they were actually standing on there and looking at the backyard. They were commenting about like plants they could have in the backyard or something. So that was really helpful. When we suggested to the seller, he had some concerns. He's like, oh, do I need cash right now to pay for the patio? Because most of the sellers, they're like looking for money, not to spend money, right? So we suggested like a company called Curbio to him. So we obtained a proposal to build a patio. We just wanted to increase value and a better showing and over the open house.
I forgot to change the slide there. 0 out-of-pocket renovations is one of the, we call them steps, but they're not really steps. It could go in different order depending on the situation. Sometimes 0 out-of-pocket renovations isn't even important. I went into a house the other day and everything was perfect. They had done everything in the house. The only thing they needed to do was upgrade the carpet in the game room downstairs. And it wasn't a very big room. It was going to cost them like $800. They had a carpet guy. He said, yeah, go ahead and do it. Not an issue. But in this case, yeah, we brought in Curbio, right? And did the consultation, got the proposals from them for the work. Now, we had quoted a few different options and a few different things. I think we actually had them quote a deck, and a patio with steps to walk down, because again, it was only like 3 feet. So you could do a deck that was about 3 feet off the back, like off the ground in the backyard, or you could just do a couple steps and walk out to a patio. Either way, you were going to want to, the steps were going to be there. You were either going to walk off the deck into the backyard, or you were going to walk down onto the patio, and then you're already there, right? So what else did we have them give us proposals for, Kelly?
I think to add light fixtures, but yeah. I guess, to find a contractor to do that, it costs more than you do it by yourself. So he just went to Costco, got some really nice, like light fixture that looked really nice. And, it's like not expensive, and he just did it himself. And that really helped, with the listing photos and everything.
Yeah. And again, we got that proposal, but he compared it to what it would actually cost him, and he made that decision. Now, we also got costs for flooring on the entire main level. We were going to try to attempt to match what was in the kitchen and in the entryway, I think all throughout, if I remember, but it was primarily, it was the living room and the dining room that I think we were concerned about that carpet. But ultimately, well, what we had determined, it wasn't really going to match because they didn't make that flooring anymore, right? So we opted to just not even do that. We kept the carpet in place in the dining room and the living room, right?
Yeah, otherwise he had to replace the whole first floor. That's going to cost too much. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing that the seller always has to weigh out when it comes to any renovations. Obviously, when you're not paying out of pocket, that makes it more attractive. But even if you're not paying out of pocket, you're still paying for it after the house sells. So in this case, how much was the total cost of the projects that he ended up going with?
14,000, but he was able to get it complete within 3-4 weeks.
14,000, and it took 3 or 4 weeks, right?
Mhm.
So we started the process in April, from the first meeting where he said, "Hey guys, I need to sell my house. I've already moved out of it." We went through the process with all the consultations and everything with Curbio in May, and we knew that we needed to launch this listing to really take advantage of the market and not miss out on, obviously spring, summer is a hot time to hit the market, especially when you're looking to get, top dollar in that market or in that neighborhood where you're in. We knew we needed to have the house really on the market by mid-June, right, Kelly?
Mhm.
So we have, and this is part of our, one of the other reasons that we think clients work with us and should work with us. And one of the things that allows us to get our clients more money is our level 5 listing launch system. Now, we have fancy names for all this stuff. We use those kind of jokingly, but it also helps us remember when we're presenting it and explaining it. And it helps our clients remember, like, oh yeah, what did they do that was different than all the other agents? Well, they have a level 5 listing launch system. There's 5 things that we do with every listing. And the first thing is strategic timing. I guess I have them in a kind of weird order here because of the clock is second and not first. But anyways, the first thing about the launch of your listing is strategic timing. So we needed to launch this listing in June. We knew that back in May, really, when we started into the process and said, okay, how long is it going to take us to build this patio or deck or whatever we end up going? How much is it going to cost and what's the return on investment going to be? Again, when we went in, our range was 785 to 819. He wanted to get closer to the top of that range, of course. Well, we want to be realistic too. What can we do to actually get it there? Well, in this case, we put 14,000 into it, and we knew that we were going to be closer to the top of the range. We knew that we needed to hit mid-June, otherwise we were potentially going to slip out of the top of the range, and we needed to sell it as soon as possible, or he was going to continue making, double mortgage payments, this mortgage payment as well as the one on his new house that he was already living in.
Mhm.
We also knew that we had the staging thing. So I think we did the staging consultation right from the very beginning, kind of simultaneously while we were dealing with Curbio. We had our staging consultant come in, our interior designer. She helped us, kind of just point some things out, move some things around, really just work with what was already there. I don't think we brought in any furniture or anything. What did we bring in, Kelly?
Just some pillows, blankets to make the beds look more presentable. Yeah.
Right, yeah. We had him, I think, go and get some pillows and blankets, and
Yeah.
then we brought in some, what do you call them, succulents or whatever, the
Yeah.
little green plants, just to give some color to the kitchen and everything. So that's part of our listing launch as well, is staging. And that could, sometimes we're bringing in furniture, and sometimes it's just simply that consultation and working with what you already have and what's already within your means. We also knew that, in order to get our clients the best results, the best day of the week to list, or the best 2 days, I should say, is Wednesday or Thursday. And we'll tell you in a minute why that became really important. But we always do our photos, our videos, our 360 virtual tours, everything that you kind of see represented by the icons here on the screen. We got all that done on a Tuesday, as we always do. That gives us, all day Wednesday to get the photos back from the editor, get the listing and everything ready, edit the virtual tours and all of that, and put the listing up on, I think in this case it was Wednesday rather than Thursday, and not start showings until Saturday. We don't let anybody come into the house the day that it's listed. Ideally, we'd have at least 2 days or 48 hours between the time the house is listed to when anybody comes in. And in this case, I think we started that with an open house on Saturday, right, Kelly?
Yeah.
What happened in between there, though? In between us listing the house on Wednesday and doing the open house on Saturday, there was some activity going on. What happened?
Yeah, there are actually a couple agents called me And they were really, after they saw the listing, the clients are really excited. So they were like, pushing their agents to contact me to see if they can see the property like before the open house, and maybe like, give us offer before the open house, so we don't even have to have an open house.
That's right. Yeah. So we got a sight unseen offer.
Yeah.
It was a good offer from the initial consultation and throughout the repair process, and just being out there in the market and being experts in the market and seeing similar houses that had sold, not in that neighborhood, not even in that school district, but other school districts, but similar, same floor plan. We thought we could push the market a little bit, so we listed it 820, correct?
Mhm.
Right. So even though he didn't do all of the work that we recommended, we listed it at the top of that initial market range that we said. I think 819 was our initial number. We talked about what would it take to get to 830, but we said, what, we think we can push the market. We'll do 14,000 worth of work and then list it for 820. And the initial offer that came in was how much?
825.
So, and he wanted a response immediately, but we advised the seller not to do that, right? Until at least it gotten through the open house. So why don't you talk about, I guess I can change the slide here and help you out. Why don't you talk about that process from like the open house? We had the offer in hand. We got another offer, right? Another buyer came to the open house, and then what happened? So why don't you take us through the negotiations and kind of that
Sure.
part.
So the buyers were really excited. Actually, the buyer one, he arrived even before me getting to the open house, and he like inspected everything himself. And he waived the contingency because the house is only 3 years old, and he offered 825. And the buyer too, they came to the open house maybe just like 30 minutes after the open house. Like they asked their agent to call me and said they want to put in an offer. What made the difference was they were willing to purchase the furniture that were left in the home, because the seller still left a lot of furniture there. They thought they could like come back and sell them, but that would take so much time since they live out of state. And they only have like maybe 2-3 days to come back and do all of those. So like it was really nice. The buyer could take them, and they like offering extra money for that too.
So buyer one was the sight unseen offer. They made the offer before they even came in.
Yeah.
We told them, no, you have to wait for everybody else. You got to wait until the open house. You have to come and see the house because he was, I don't know, he was from out of state, but he was here anyways, or he was coming. He just didn't want to wait, right? So very aggressive, but came to the open house, got there before you even did, an hour early, half hour early, whatever, and decided that he was going to revise his offer. He was going to waive the home inspection contingency. Second buyer came in, they offered the same price, but they offered to buy all the furniture. And that was the most important thing, or the more important thing, I should say, to the seller, was not the waiving of contingencies, but the selling the furniture and being able to put a little bit more money in his pocket that way, which, by the way, we're not including in our $26,000 extra that he made. That's in addition even to that. So back to our timing. So we listed on Wednesday. We did the open house on Saturday. We had 2 offers in hand at that point. We're going back and forth. We're talking about furniture. We're talking about contingencies. This is all happening. And I think we had basically, not we, but the seller had basically decided on an offer. And then at what, like 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock on Saturday night, another home in the same neighborhood listed for sale.
Yeah.
It was
such a surprise.
That's a surprise. We both saw it, I think, at the same time. I actually know the agent. I love her to death. And that listing came up, and it was priced at what, 879 or something like that.
I think it was 888 or something.
880, yeah, something in the 880. So it was about $60,000 higher than ours, but it had, again, all that stuff that we talked about, the hardwood flooring throughout, the deck. I think that one had like a deck and a patio.
Yeah.
Bigger yard, fireplace, just all like one end of the spectrum to the other in terms of like builder options, none, or whatever basic, and builder options, all the most expensive thing, probably plus probably some stuff that they did afterwards, because I don't know if the builder, I think that like a part of the deck was covered, and it was beautiful, but listed for 60,000 more than ours. That kind of threw a wrench into our negotiations that were ongoing, right? Because I think one of the buyers saw that and said, I'm gonna probably go check that one out, or something happened at that point. I guess we don't really know what they were thinking, but
Yeah.
So what ended up happening?
Okay, so on Sunday morning, we got back to one of the buyers saying we were gonna accepting their offer. At first they were really excited, and I was just waiting on them to like send the paperwork back to me. And suddenly the agent called me and said the buyers have cold feet, so they were backing out. And we were like really shocked. And then like, well, at first we were a little bit angry, but I was like speaking with the seller what we should do. The seller really liked the offer that they had, so they thought maybe like, we can give them a few more days to let them like reconsider this. And if it's not going to work out, maybe we can have another open house the following week.
Right.
So I got back to the buyer's agent. I told them that we would like to give you like 2-3 days. You can go see the house again, and maybe by Tuesday, give us a call back to see if you still would like to continue, even though you backed out, because we totally understand that buyers, they're, especially this house is 825,000. So it's a big purchase.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. So it was an awkward situation, but we had set everything up, fortunately, with the timing of the listing. We had already had, other buyers come through. We had already had the open house. We kind of knew where we stood. We initially didn't expect the house to sell on the first day on the market necessarily, because we knew we were pushing the market with the price that we had it listed. And you handled the negotiations in a way, you could have called the agent all kinds of names and said, I can't believe, your buyers wasted our time. And we had another good offer, and we decided we were going to take yours instead of theirs. And now you're really putting us in a bad situation. You went back and you said, we understand where they're coming from. It's a big purchase. Take until Tuesday if you need. And you were able to maintain kind of that rapport and that communication with their agent, and really make it so that they came back on Tuesday and they said, okay, we thought about it. We want to buy this house, rather than, pay $60,000 more or whatever they would have had to pay for the house up the street, which we don't even know if they even went to see it, because I think that house ended up selling on like Monday, which everything's closed now. So we can see the public record. That house ended up selling for the asking price, and ended up closing right after ours. So they listed on a Saturday night, in the middle of the night. They didn't do any open houses. They took an offer pretty quickly on a Monday, and they sold the house for full price, which for a lot of agents and a lot of sellers even, they look at that and they see that as a win. I look at that and I say that house had about $120,000 more upgrades than what this house had, and yet it only sold for $55,000 more, or something like that. So I call that a win for our client. And I also think if they would have stayed on the market a little longer, done an open house, they probably would have got over asking price, because I think that house was priced low. So there's always different pricing strategies when it comes to, where do you want to be in the market? Do you want to price it low so that it sells really quickly in one day? Or do you want to price it a little bit high? And in our case, it took 3 days, I guess, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then on Tuesday they came back and ended up taking the offer. So we went under contract. We handled everything. There wasn't really anything eventful that came up. I think the home inspection was pretty easy in terms of negotiations. They asked for a couple minor things. I think we said, we'll handle 2 out of the 3 things, and that was fine. Nothing really major there. And we were able to have the seller close without needing to come back into town. He was able to sign all the documents and everything, get them notarized and sent back from, out of state. So seller didn't have to attend the closing. He didn't have to spend more money on flights. The moving process was easier again, because he was able to sell some of that furniture to the buyers. And they were able to mail a check to him, after the closing, for whatever the amount of money was that they bought the furniture with. You probably know, I don't even know. And that was it. Smooth transaction, smooth closing once we got through those initial steps. And he closed at the end of July. So he didn't have to make too many. He was already out of the house when we met in April, but you figure we had April, May, June. We were under contract in June. We closed in July. So that was 4 months from the time that we had initially started the conversation up until we closed. Again, going back and knowing that we were saying, and it sold for $825. So that's a $50,000 difference. I'm sorry, $40,000 difference.
Yeah,
Supposed-
40,000.
Help me with my math here, Kelly. So it's a $40,000 difference. He spent $14,000 on the patio and the steps and whatever else. And there's your $26,000 in potential profit. So I already talked about closing. I'm a little behind on the slides here. I'm trying to work slides and talk. But if you are thinking about selling your house and maybe you're looking to interview agents or you're looking to figure out, where do we even start? Again, we have a process, we have a system. We've sold over 500 homes on our team. We have plenty of stories and experiences like this one that we can share. I think one of the important things as professionals in this business, we're consultants. You want to know, what should we do? Does it work? Give me an example, right, of how that works or why that works. And that's what we do for our clients. There's a lot of agents out there that can, probably sell your house and maybe sell it quickly, but are you leaving $26,000 or $50,000 on the table because the timing wasn't right, or because the house could have used more improvements, or it was over improved for the price? That, there's only so much you can do about that, but there's any number of things that can dictate the outcome of the sale of your house. So if the outcome is very important to you, reach out to us. Underneath this video, if you're watching it on our website, you're going to see there's a link to check out our entire listing process, all 7 parts. Again, we say steps, but they're not really steps in order. There's 7 parts to our listing process, and there's parts within each of those parts, systems within the systems. And we want to show you all that. We want to show you what we've learned over the course of 500 transactions and how that can help you specifically. So look out for that. Take a look. We call it the Lucky 7 listing system because, again, there's 7 things that we do. Again, kind of a laughing title, but makes it easy for you to remember. It makes it easy for you to go and, if you're talking to another agent, you say, what do you do to sell homes? And they tell you one thing. What about these other 6 things? And see what they say. They may do some of them, they may not do some. We feel like we do all 7 things really well. And we've learned from experience that our clients get really good results because of that. So go check that out. You can there'll be another link there where you can schedule a consultation with us if you're ready to start that process. Feel free to reach out to us with any comments or questions. Hopefully we answered all your questions about this particular transaction and this kind of case study here today. Kelly, is there anything else that you want to say before we end this video here?
I just wanted to say every team or every agent has their own way. They probably have their different listing system, but this Lucky 7 listing system really works for our team. I think it brings great result.
Amen. Yep. All right. Well, thanks for watching the video, everybody. And hopefully we will talk to you soon about buying and selling your home.